Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Into the 99. I'm one of your hosts, Daniel. I'm joined with both Ryan and Brian. Today we're talking Archelos, and yeah, Ryan made this deck. Ryan, tell us a little bit about it first.
Well, Commander Legends came out and I saw the turtle and really got jacked up and had to build this deck and tried to embrace the hate of Archelos and make this as stacksy as I possibly could in Sultai colors.
I feel like in general, there's no way to have built it that isn't Staxy. Like it just seems like it's what he needs.
I agree.
Um, Brian, what's your thought on this commander?
He was definitely one of the more interesting ones that came out. It's a really unique ability that he has on him.
We just in general loved it. I keep saying it, but Commander Legends was just so interesting with all of the things that I initially wanted to build versus what I actually did build. But Archelos was right on that list of things that I initially wanted, and I didn't get around to getting mine. I got a little too excited for other things, but I'm still in the midst of building mine. But Ryan was talking initially, basically from release date, about how to do this. He had a few different versions of Archelos. Like he loved this commander from day one.
Yeah,
True dat.
the original build that I was trying to do was a heavy artifact build that would exploit with like Urza and all the Urza shenanigans. But then as I built the deck, I kind of moved away from Urza, and then it ended up just coming out of the deck because I found better options that weren't as cancerous as Urza.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know the card we're talking about, it's Archelos Lagoon Mystic. He's one in Sultai, that's black, green, blue. As long as he's untapped, or as long as he's tapped, other permanents enter the battlefield tapped. As long as he's untapped, other permanents enter untapped. So I just initially was so impressed with that ability because green has so much fetch lands, bring it in tapped. There were already great ramp ability. Even looking at things like the guild gates, you can just get them into play untapped, no problem. He's basically an Amulet of Vigor for you, or just like the most hate-filled guy who just taps everything down.
I didn't
And
even think of the lands. That's just blew my mind now.
Yeah, well, for me, like that was one of the things that I wanted was just that ability to put in the cheaper lands and stuff, right? Because, like I said, you don't really. A lot of time when we talk about like mana bases, we keep saying that you're paying for the speed, right? The reason that Volcanic Island, for instance, is so expensive is because it comes in no downside and it's fetchable. But even the shock lands and stuff, the same thing. They come in, there's a slight downside, but your mana base has already gone up, right? The guild gates, the payoff is that they're accessible, but they're slower. They're meant to be slower. Not when you're running this kind of a combo, right? Everything is Amulet of Vigor. So anytime you're cultivating anything that's going to put your lands into play tapped, he's just not going to care about it. And then vice versa, anyone who is playing those expensive lands, if I'm trying to drop in those high value dual lands against Archelos, he's taking that speed advantage away. He's turning them into basically tapped shock lands at this point.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I really tried with the deck to try to lean heavily on keeping him untapped and exploiting those abilities during my turn, but then running a bunch of ways to tap him so that all of my opponents get the downside.
Yeah, and that's just why it's so nice. It's that he can be played so good, and if you have that ability to untap him, it's such a good politics tool to be able to say, hey, I'll do this. If you leave it alone, I won't have him tapped. Or, yeah, we know that Daniel's a little bit of a threat right now. Let's tap him down and slow everything he's doing right down. Last night, we were playing just some online games. I was playing Kelsian. He comes in, Vigilance Haste. That's not as scary if he enters tapped.
Yeah, that 100%. Sucked.
Yeah. He slaps. So I'll let Ryan choose which one of these categories we're going to go into and stuff, but I just, looking over this deck every time I've seen this list, I really, really like it. I think that there's just a ton of value in it. And yeah, Ryan, choose where we're going to start here.
Let's start with the artifacts. I think they're kind of the linchpin of the deck outside of the commander.
Okay.
So the first one that I included was Amulet of Vigor. It's one colorless, and it's whenever a permanent enters the battlefield tapped under my control, I get to untap it.
Yep.
Not bad, not bad.
I love that for what we were talking about earlier with those shocklands. You don't have to actually pay the cost.
That only
This-
costs one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amulet of Vigor is such a nice turn one.
I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to
and
pick one of these up.
And you'll understand later there are some cards in here that it really helps get around that are gonna you'll see. You'll understand one a little bit later. The second card is Arcane Signet. It's kind of a commander staple. 2 colorless artifact. It taps for any one mana that my commander's color identity.
The next mana rock you have is actually one of my favorite ones. I used to use it in my Planeswalker Sisay deck. It's Honor Worn Shaku. It's 3 an artifact. It taps for 1, and you could tap any untapped legendary permanent you control to untap Honor Worn Shaku. So it just basically in this deck functions as a turn everyone else's board off and gives you mana. I love it.
Yep. Brian, you want to take the next one?
Oh, do I ever? It is Howling Mine, costs 2, and at the beginning of each player's draw step, if Howling Mine is untapped, that player draws an additional card. And you're so mean. I already know what's happening.
Well, even like Daniel said, it's very politicking. I mean, if I can shut it down where I'm the only one that's going to benefit, or Daniel's getting out of hand, I can let everybody else draw some cards to.
That is true.
Get us
Howling
back in
Mine
the
tap.
game.
Howling Mine
Like
tap.
no one does that. no one does it.
Only Urza players, and now Archelos.
This next one is just an old school classic. It's Icy Manipulator. 4 colorless, 1 colorless to tap target artifact, creature, or land. So I can tap down my Archelos, or I can tap down problematic permanents that my opponents have, and then they don't get to untap it because the Archelos is tapped. Dan?
Mox Diamond, just solid ramp overall. But I want to get right into the next one, which is
absolutely.
Nevinyrral's Disc 4, and it enters tapped. Not this time, though. Pay 1 and blow the board up. Destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. It's going to leave planeswalkers alive, lands alive, but its downside is it has to make it around the table once for it to be such a threat. Not anymore. You can have it like in threat position turn 1.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Brian, you want to take the next one?
Yeah, we got Orbs of Dreams. Permanents come into play tapped. Oh, I'm really starting to figure stuff out.
Yeah, you double down on that effect because
why not?
You stack your triggers. You stack how everything is. So it comes into play tapped. Archelos untaps it.
Yeah, or it just taps Archelos out at the end of my turn, and then everybody else is.
Yeah, everyone's getting wrecked.
Yep.
Pacification Array, 1 an artifact, kind of the same thing as Icy Manipulator a little bit. Pay 2, tap it, tap target artifact or creature.
I didn't realize that there were so many cards with these abilities on them.
Yeah, tons of tap down abilities. Paradise Mantle's another one of them. It's a great mana ability giving equipment. 0 cost. It has equip creature as tap to add 1 mana of any color, 1 to equip. So again, another very easy way to keep Archelos tapped. Like just the ability to tap him on the turns you want is very, very important. It cannot be undersold in this deck. It's the whole point of decks like this. Like you want to control what other people are doing. Life is not a race. That is Archelos saying sometimes you got to slow people down just a little bit.
Or a lot in this case.
I'm going to glaze right over, but the next one is Soul Ring. Everybody knows what it does.
It's what?
Then the next one is Spring Leaf Drum. It's colorless for an artifact, and it tap an untapped creature you control. Add 1 mana of any color. Same thing, just to keep Archelos tapped.
I love that card. Love everything about that card.
You know how hard that card was to find?
Oh, I know. And then they just reprinted it. I was so excited to put that into Calamax. Sometimes you got to tap the Stegosaurus. I get it.
This next one and Archelos are kind of best friends. This should be his staff that he's carrying. The Staff of Domination, 3 colorless. You can pay 1, untap Staff of Domination. 2, tap it to gain a life. 3, tap it to untap target creature. 4, tap it to tap target creature. And 5, to draw a card.
So many abilities.
I mean, it allows me to really play the game with Archelos or even just draw a card if I need to.
Yep. Well, Staff is such a good mana sink. And again, I cannot cannot say how nice it is that the price has gone down, because I think the old staff is still like $60.
Which is wild because this one's $5.
Yeah, that's why I can't find any of
Origins.
those ones.
Do you need one? I can send you one.
Oh, I need a bunch of them. Yeah, I keep
not
trying
gonna
to
send
find
you
them because
a
they're
bunch,
so
but-
good. Yeah,
but
just
I've
send
got
me a
some
stack
extra.
whenever you get around to it.
Gotcha. Brian, you want to take the next one?
Yeah, we got Static Orb, cost 3. And if Static Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than 2 permanents during their untap step. Let's just put the salt on the wound still.
Well, like Ryan was saying, he initially thought of it as an Urza style deck, and you're seeing it very, very intensely in it because this is going to control the table.
Yep.
Your friends aren't going to be happy with this card, but Magic isn't always about everyone else being happy. Sometimes you got to
No,
enjoy yourself.
Turtles like to live alone.
Yeah. Hey, you're playing a turtle deck. Everyone's turtling with you.
Yep.
Storage Matrix is another card that does the same sort of style thing. As long as it's untapped, each player chooses artifact, creature, or land during their untap step. They can untap only permanents of that type during the untap step.
Oh, this was out last night too, wasn't it?
No, but another one down the list was.
The next one is Swiftfoot Boots. It's mostly just to give Archelos some form of protection. And the next one is Sword of the Pay Runes. It's 4 colorless for an equipment. As long as the equipped creature is tapped creatures you control get +2/+0. And as long as the equipped creature is untapped creatures get +0/+2. And then it has 3 you may tap or untap equipped creature, and then 3 to equip. Really it's give Archelos that much more protection and allow you to tap and untap him. Dan, this is one of your favorite cards. Why don't you cover it?
Winter Orb is what was out last night, and I love it. Sometimes you really got to put the brake on a game with this. 2 mana, as long as it's untapped, players can untap more than 1 land during their untap step.
Yeah, I was not happy with you.
Yeah, that one slaps. Brian plays Mirari's Wake with 9 lands while I have 4. Not today.
Next we'll go ahead.
Really quickly before, like even just seeing the artifacts, we're seeing a really, really strong stacks and defense package. And that is very important in a deck like this because you're going to have people angry at you when their things come in tapped.
Yep.
There's no way around it. So if you're going to go and play a salt deck, you got to kind of salt people a little more and full out tap. Don't play Archelos and half commit to it and be like, oh, like they're going to try to kill you anyways. Make it worth it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I know that I'm going to sit down and I'm going to play Archelos, and I might get some looks. And then when I start playing this stuff, people are just going to be like, okay, we need to focus on him and get him off the table. So
all right, we
can
understand what's going on. Yeah.
Magic the way we want to play it.
So I know one game that you're allowed to play your board wipe tribal in, Dan.
Yeah, I can see that.
So we'll go to the Planeswalkers next.
Yeah, I definitely liked the choice you had there. I'll let you take it away at the beginning here.
So the first one is Ashiok Dreamrender. He is a colorless we'll just say double Dimir hybrid. He comes into play with 5 loyalty, and spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause their controller to search their library. And then he is -1. Target player puts the top 4 cards of their library in the graveyard, and then exile each opponent's graveyard.
He is a solid card. He just the tutor shutdown, the graveyard hate for everyone but you. Oh, I love Ashiok.
Which
I didn't like
somebody
that
wanna
one.
They never should have printed that card.
No, they shouldn't.
I agree. He's rough.
Yeah, that card is pretty brutal, especially at like the 3 CMC. You can shut down like Marin decks. You can shut down a lot of graveyard shenanigans real quick with something like that.
Even the heavy ramp decks, you shut them.
Well, yeah, that's true because they can't search for anything. They can't tutor. Play this against my Golos Gates deck, and I'm just crying.
Play this against my Rada deck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When someone's trying to tutor for lands and the whole like purpose of their deck is to go and grab lands, and you just stop that.
Hey, you get to play 1 land per turn with the rest of us.
Even if Ashiok doesn't stick around, that -1 to Bajuka Bog everyone after milling 1 player is brutal.
It's solid.
It's brutal.
All right.
One of my favorite things, sorry, just
No, it's okay.
One of my favorite things to do is you see some competitive players be jerks, and they'll scheming symmetry with a player, and they'll be like, okay, you can go get this, and then they'll Ashiok the top card that they tutored.
That's dirty.
That's gross.
Feels pretty bad.
I would just not get a good card.
Well, no, you don't know it then. They play it after they
Yeah,
scheming symmetry.
yeah.
You got to make scumbag deals. The next is a card that makes me question still why Leovold is banned. Unchained, my boy. Narset, Parter of Veils, 1 blue, 4 basically, not as good Leovold. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 cards each turn, which infuriates me in every deck I play because I love to draw cards. It's a Planeswalker that starts at 5 and has -2. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can reveal a non-creature, non-land from among them, put it into your hand, and the rest on the bottom in a random order.
Not
Solid.
bad. Not bad ability.
Play your Xyrus now, Brian.
No.
Brian, you want to take the next one?
Sure can, because it's the worst one of them all.
He's fat.
Oko, Thief of Crowns, 1 a green and a blue. Legendary Planeswalker, Oko. And +2 to create a food token. +1, target artifact or creature loses all abilities and becomes a green elf. That's a plus ability. That is
Yeah, it sure
absolutely disgusting.
That's why Oko's banned. Is
Yeah,
because
I could understand that 100% now. So green elk creature with base power 3/3 or -5 to exchange control of target artifact or creature you control and target creature an opponent controls with power 3 or less and base power 4.
Yeah, Oko's interesting. I don't know. I don't hate Oko as much as everyone. I've had a lot of conversations with people recently about it, and they're like, "He's broken." I'm like, "Protect your commander." It's not hard.
Do one of you two want to kind of real quick run through the sorceries? Most of them are pretty self-explanatory, except 3 of them.
Yeah, I'll go through them pretty quick, and I know the ones to stop on. So number 1, Damnation. Damnation is such a good card. You should run Damnation every time you can. Beautiful looking card. It's 2 black, destroy all creatures that can't be regenerated. Take that, elf decks.
My
We've
favorite one is the full art Damnation.
Oh, I know.
Like it looks like I do you know what? I have it in a deck that I rarely play.
The Bio Wasteland looking thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
I love that. That's in my Muldrotha. We've got Farseek, which is tutor for any of the land types. Put it into play tapped, but that doesn't matter with you.
Except for forests.
No, you can search for forest, can't you?
Plains,
No.
islands, swamps, or mountains.
No, you can't.
See?
Well.
I taught you something today.
Brian's learned a thing today. We make that up with nature's lore. Search the library for a forest card, put it on the battlefield, and shuffle. Rampant growth, everyone knows rampant growth. Reshape the earth is a problem. So I want to talk about that one. Number 1, being able to go get 10 lands is real strong, especially at 9 mana.
That all
being
come
able
into
to
play
get
untapped.
Yeah, being able to get 10 untapped lands is a significantly bigger problem.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I
And you'll-
love it.
You'll see when we talk about the lands. There's
I just scrolled over to see. I was like, all right, he has the land I'm looking for. He understands what's going on. Scapeshift, the same thing. You sack some lands, go get that many lands, put them into play. Tapped. Wink, wink. Nah, I love Scapeshift so much. It's so good. You are definitely missing a creature though, and I have to correct you on it.
all right, we'll
with
talk
your
about it.
Yeah, with your we'll get there. We'll get there. Okay. 3 visits, such a good card. Honestly, we were talking about it. It's one of the best reprints that could have been done. Its artwork is beautiful. Its ability to not be a $150 card is beautiful.
Was it
I love
originally
it.
that?
Oh,
Yeah.
it sure was. 1 printing in like Kingdoms or Portal or something.
Portal
Ooh.
3 Kingdoms.
Yeah. It was like a really old card, and it just basically you either had it because you played and just had this like very not good uncommon. It's not a bad uncommon, but it wasn't worth $150.
Yes.
Yeah, it was that because of rarity alone.
Gotcha.
Toxic Deluge, as I've noticed, Ryan very, very greatly loves this card. 2 and a black.
I
An
do.
additional cost, pay X life. All creatures get -X/-X. It's a very solid board wipe.
All right.
Usually
the next
it-
one I'm going to take
before we get to that one though,
Yeah.
it usually doesn't take that much of your life in a 40-player game as well to wreck the board.
Oh,
Minus
yeah, I
X,
did it
minus
last.
X. Yeah, globally is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Even if you want to keep your commander alive, -3/-3 till end of turn is going to blow a lot of boards out.
Yeah, especially that 7 last night.
Yeah. And then, yeah, take the next one.
Windfall, 2 colorless and a blue sorcery. Each player discards his or her hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded that way. So ideally, I want to do this when I have Narset in play, just to ranch everybody.
So mean.
Well, the deck's not nice in any way, shape, or form. But I also have some other ways to kind of exploit it. Do you guys want to? We can jump over to the instance. And Brian, do you want to blast through these? None of these are really.
There is no blasting when it comes to video. First up is Assassin's Trophy, which is 1 black, 1 green, and destroy a target permanent an opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle their library.
Assassin's Trophy.
Yeah, I remember when that
Beautiful.
came out. It had a pretty high price tag too.
It just rotated out of standard, which is why it's even moderately affordable right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I was playing Get Rog's one of my favorite like competitive decks, and I could only find foil ones when I was buying them, so I have like 3 or 4 foils of them, and I overpaid for them significantly because they were one of the best removals in format.
Okay, then now that makes sense.
Destroy target permanent is real good because it's not target non-land permanent. You can blow up anything with that, and it hurts.
Yeah, I can see that. At least you get a basic.
Yeah. Well, not if you can't search with Ashiok. Ooh.
Oh, yeah, good point. I didn't even
So
go back
just
to that.
nuke something.
That's,
Or if I don't have the Ashiok in play, it's going to come into play tapped as opposed to untapped because hopefully Archelos will be in play.
a little competitive games insight. Some people's win cons, and by some I mean nearly everyone who plays Gitrog's win con, is just infinite cycling of the graveyard so that they can full draw their deck and continuously cast this until you have no lands. So they'll blow your land up, you can go search for a land, they'll cycle through and do it again. Takes a super long time. It's like the saltiest thing. It's just like a infinite loop of they're just going to continuously blow your things up. It's not a win condition, it's a cancer condition. And many people quit when you do that to them.
Amazing. So
Not
next
me.
up,
You have to beat me.
yeah, Dan will sit there the entire time.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't have any damage to follow it up or anything. They're just like, well, you have no permanence. I'm like, all right, well, pass.
Next up, we have Beast Within. This is always like a staple in green for removal. 2 and a green and destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. Another destroy full permanent.
The next card, disgusting. Cyclonic Rift. Can't stand it.
It's my favorite card.
Vomits blood and rage.
So its CMC is 1 and a blue, or you can overload it for 6 and a blue. It is return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. If you overload it, it becomes every permanent you don't control.
Yeah.
Or every non-land permanent, sorry.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's great board wipe.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. Fierce Guardianship, one of the best cards to recently be printed, and I think the best is subjective, but I think arguably the most powerful card to come out of the new commander decks.
Yeah.
It's an instant for 3, which is a very playable cost. Counter target non-creature spell, that's includable. It's not a big deal. But if you control your commander, you can do it without paying its mana cost, and that hurts.
Kind of like I
like
wish it
seeing
was
these next
printed in
cards.
like the actual set too.
There's no way that they won't include it somewhere. The demand on it's just too nuts.
I think it's an easy one that they could literally just print in every commander deck cycle.
They should have put it back into
Yeah, it should have been
Commander
Commander
Legends.
Yeah. I am hoping that in the next set of real commander decks, not just the semi mini ones we're seeing with sets, that they do another cycle of these free cast styled cards, because I just liked them. I thought that they were really interesting mechanically. They reward you actually having your commander out, which is something that is the whole point of our format. You know, you're supposed to build your deck around these people, so it would make sense that they would get stronger if you had your commander out. They don't necessarily have to be this strong, but like even the white one is good. Even the red one can come out at such silly times. That deflecting SWAT,
Like last night.
yeah, deflecting SWAT is so frustrating when you finally have the removal you need for a problem, and they're like, no,
It
not
goes to
today.
that target.
Yeah. So the next one we have is Force of Negation, another card desperately in need of a reprint. It's from Modern Horizons. It's not your turn. You can exile a blue card from your hand instead of paying its mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell. If it's countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. And that is brutal.
That card's slowly like getting up there. Like they're 80 moose books now.
Is that how much they are? Like,
Yeah, I was trying to
know
pick
that
one up.
yeah, I know that they're a problem too. Like, you're almost better just trying to buy more packs of Modern Horizons and roll the dice with it. At least it's only a rare.
Well, it's a lot of in modern, a lot of decks play a 4 of, plus all of us animals.
Well, it's a good
Want them.
commander card, but it's really, really good, like, competitive commander as well. So everyone's a bad person with it.
The next
Tiny
one
leader's
is
legal. I'm just saying.
the next one's Force of Will, 3 colors, double blue, instant. You may pay 1 life and exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost, counter target spell. Kind of a staple in any blue deck that is trying to control, or just blue deck in
I
general.
was so happy to be able to pull one.
Force of Will is another card that, again, I was just happy to see reprints of. Like,
Yeah.
it's fun to 0 mana counter things. I'm not going to lie.
But it's still,
Feels
I
good.
mean, it's still a $100 card.
Yeah, but it's not like how expensive it was. It's a beautiful card. I love that card. Heroic Intervention is a card that I hate saying that like every deck should run, but there's nearly no reason you wouldn't run this.
It's
in
great
green.
protection.
It was extremely expensive. Again, came down in price, and I think it's only a few dollars right now, like $5 or $6. And your permanents having hexproof and indestructible. There's no green deck that exists that this card is not good in some shape or form. It's so good.
And I think more so, like the indestructible is amazing, but I think really where the gotcha is the hexproof.
Yeah, I think when we were playing last night, I think we hit 4 of them. I think
multiple
I think
gotcha moments.
no, I think you cast it in the game. I think the other players cast it. I know I cast it in the
casted
game.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in response to an Agent of Treachery, I was like, no, never.
I say nay.
Yeah. Crossing Grip, another just great removal card. Split second, destroying target artifact or enchantment.
I'm so happy it got reprinted too.
Oh,
With
I love
gorgeous
it.
art.
Mana drain hurts the right way. I love Mana Drain. That's it's a double blue counter target spell. The beginning of your next main phase, add an amount of a colorless mana equal to that spell's CMC, and that is just such a good card. It's good early, it's good late, it's good salt, it's significantly better than a counter spell. It's also significantly more expensive.
Was so lucky. He pulled 3.
Ooh,
ridiculous.
that does feel good.
The next one's Nature's Claim. It's a green for an instant. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, and its controller gains 4 life.
I
Having
love
somebody
that one.
gain 4 life is nearly irrelevant in Commander.
Yeah.
But it can be. I mean, sometimes you got to blow up your own thing to save you from dying. But
I guess I've never used it that way, but I guess you could use it as a gain 4 life.
Someone used it on themselves last night.
No, I used a similar style card to get rid of Winter.
Oh, okay.
That was a mistake. And then the next is Negate, which has the full art version, and I absolutely love it. Countering target non-creature spell.
Which is going to just do so much work in Commander.
Yeah. I absolutely love it. Now we're over into our creatures here.
Yep. I'll start with Aesi, Tyrant of the Gyre Strait, 4 colorless green-blue. For a 5/5 legendary creature serpent, you may play an additional land on each of your turns, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. Just a solid card, solid way to generate card advantage. The deck doesn't have I mean, I guess when you do things like Scape Shift or Reshape the Earth, you can draw a ton of cards.
Yeah, hitting a 10-card draw with that would feel pretty good.
And what this is just better. Was it Tatiova? No.
Yeah, it's just it's a different but better Tatiova.
Yeah. I still like Tatiova for her own things, but the extra land stapled onto it's solid.
The next card is Arixmathes, the Slumbering Isle. It's 2 colorless for a 2 colorless green blue for a 12/12 legendary creature Kraken. When it enters the battlefield, tapped with 5 slumber counters on it.
But
And
not
as
really
long-
tapped.
This is true. As long as it has a counter on it, it's considered a land and it's not a creature. And then whenever you cast a spell, you may remove a slumber counter from Arixmathes, and it taps for a green blue. So likely it's going to come into play untapped. It's not a creature, so you can immediately tap it to use its mana. And then eventually it's going to be probably one of the win cons in the deck.
Eventually it
This is just big.
slaps.
Yeah.
I feel like I
it's
should have this in my Tulane deck.
It's a really cool card. I really like it.
The only downfall to the card, and it's nothing to do with the card, is it's only available in the Commander Precon from Commander Legends.
I think it was Double Masters as well. There was a recent reprint.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm thinking of ASC. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
not Arixmathes.
No, but it was only its availability still is not there. Like this card is pretty much never in stores when you're finding it because it's such a cool card. It's a 12/12 commander at 4 mana.
I think the reason also is it's $3. So it's very cheap. It's very affordable. It does a lot of work.
And it's a double land.
Yep.
Yeah, it is pretty good mana fixing. I just love that card.
Brian, this next card seems like one you'd like. Do you want to talk about it?
Oh, I love this card. And the card that I love so much, Consecrated Sphinx. 4 and 2 blue. Flying. I like this art. This is from the new Teferi.
Yeah.
The
Lair?
Father's Day?
No, it's the Extra Life Secret Lair.
Oh, okay. For the kids. And then whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards. Why not?
I love it.
Especially if you're forcing people to draw. That
Well,
Howling
it's just
Mind.
one of the best, like just flat out card advantage generating creatures to exist. A 4/6 with flying, I'll say every time, is amazing.
Yep.
And the may draw 2 cards is real good. But one thing to know is may draw 2 cards does not mean you can draw 1 card.
Yeah, you must draw 2.
It's not may draw up to 2. You must draw 2 when you're taking those triggers.
Dan, you want to talk about this next little hidden gem?
Yeah, I love these. Elder Druid, it's just a simple tap and untapper. It's a 4 mana cleric in green, which is strange. But it's 4 mana, tap or untap target artifact, creature, or land. 2/2.
Interesting.
It is definitely a nice one. Eternal Witness is the next one that we have going on. I love it. Bring anything back. 3 mana. Its new artwork was good.
Pretty sure that it's a staple in any green deck. You want to be able to recur stuff.
Yep. We have Fate Stitcher, which does pretty much the same thing we were just talking about. It is 3 and a blue for a 1/2 zombie wizard. You may tap or untap another target permanent, and it also has Unearth, which is very fun. At the end of the turn, if it removed from the game at the end of the turn, or if it would leave play. So you do lose it, but it's still got the ability to do exactly what you need it to do, which is tap or untap things, so you can be the worst person ever.
Next card is Frost Titan, 4 colorless blue for a giant 6/6. Whenever it becomes the target of spell or an ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless its controller pays 2 colorless. And then whenever Frost Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, tap target permanent. It does not untap during its controller's next untap step. So just to continue the prison theme to try to keep your stuff locked down.
And it's got good protection, right? Like I love Frost Titan.
Next card is Hull Breacher.
Before we go to Hull Breacher, Frost Titan, I think we're going to see a lot more of because of the new Kaldheim set focusing so heavily on giant creature types.
It might be nice if they reprint them.
Well, yeah, and we've also already seen Blue Giant in the set, and we know that there's like pretty solid red giants if you're following the pre-spoilers. There's just a really cool Fling Giant, which you'll have to go and take a look at, but I think that Giant Tribal is going to possibly get some love coming up here, and I would like to see more Frost Titan. It's really underutilized. More Frost Titan, more Prime Titan. Let's get it going.
Next card is Hull Breacher. This out of Commander Legends is also one of my favorite cards. It's 2 colors and a blue for a 3/2 with flash, and then if opponent would draw a card except for the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, instead you create a treasure token. This can be savage, like with a windfall.
Yeah, it's just good in general.
All the mana.
I've already been hosed by this card like 12 times.
Yeah, everyone, you know that voice. It's Zach.
Good morning, Zachary.
Well, you know what they say, life is not a race.
It is
Ha, there we go, Zach. Zach in true Archelos theme, coming in late.
The next card is King's Assassin for a colorless black for a 1/1. And on your turn before you attack, you may tap King's Assassin to destroy any one tapped creature. Just hedges in with all the tapping of my opponent's stuff, keeping them locked down, dealing with their big stuff.
Yep.
Brian, why don't you take the next one?
We got a Notion Thief, which is 2 blue and a black human rogue with flash. If an opponent would draw a card except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, instead that player skips that draw and you draw a card.
I love Notion Thief too. I love a lot of the cards
very
in
good.
this deck. Maybe I just love salt cards, to be honest. I'm saying I love a lot of these things in here, and
it speaks volumes about your character as a Magic player.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's really showing my true colors. But I'm like, I love this card. I love that card.
Yeah, I think you were blaming me last night.
Yeah, I'm a bad person.
Somebody want to take the next one?
I
Oak
will.
Street. Oh, go ahead, Zach.
Oak Street Innkeeper. It's 2 and a green for an elf creature, 1/2. As long as it's your turn, tap creatures you control have hexproof.
Oh, it's not bad. I like that.
I'm sorry, as long as it's not your turn. My bad.
Yeah,
That's
try to
very solid.
Archelos, get him tapped down, and then ride him out through my opponent's turns. Dan, you want to take the next one? You love this card.
I do love this card. It's pretty good. Another card with flash, 2 and a black for a 3/2 human rogue. It's opposition agent. You control your opponents while they're searching their libraries, which is so funny. While an opponent is searching their library, they exile each card they find. You can play it as long as it's exiled, and you can do it as your mana is any color.
Yep.
That's
So
you know I'm gonna say it. I love it.
Brian and I played an extra stream with my good buddy Han, and Han was before me in turn order. Both opposition agent and hall breacher were used on me specifically, and I was the only person to get hall breached and or opposition agent.
It was fantastic because I blew them up before it became my turn.
It's hurtful.
I was playing my Salamanders deck, so it wasn't even like I was playing anything like gotcha cards. It was just like, oh, I'm a Kodama's Reach. I'm gonna get your islands or not Kodama. Yeah, I was gonna get basic islands. I did get them.
Opposition agent, if I'm like playing like a Golos deck and I hit opposition agent and somebody like I get hit with opposition agent, it's breaking my brain to even think about. If I'm reshaping the earth, which is like my favorite card to cast in Golos, and somebody opposition agents me, I'm probably just gonna quit the game. And I don't like to quit games like that, but that is enough to end it for me. I'll be like, all right, you guys have a great night. I'm gonna head on home
and cry.
The next card is Royal Assassin, colors black for a 1/1, tap to destroy target tap creature. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, we saw this guy last night too.
Runic Armasaur, 1 green. Whenever an opponent activates an ability that is an ability of a creature or land that isn't a mana ability, you can draw a card, and I love it.
And I love it.
I do love it. Runic Armasaur is so good too. This deck, I'm super happy with how you brewed this deck. This looks very similar to how I would brew it, except like I said, you're missing a creature, and we're going to go over that creature after the next one.
Somebody want to take the next one?
Yeah, the last creature is Thrasios Triton Hero, green and a blue for a legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard, and it's a 1/3. You can pay 4 colorless, scry 1, then reveal a top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, draw a card, and it has partner.
I think you read that wrong. Comes into play untapped.
Yeah, that is true.
No, Zach. It's
If it's
Archelos.
a land card, put it on the battlefield tapped.
But you hopefully have Archelos in play, so it will come into play untapped.
But the card system. Life is not a race, guys. Okay, you're jumping ahead.
So before we go on, number 1, where's your Urborg?
That's a good point.
Number 2, where's your dread presence for when you reshape the earth?
I'm gonna write these cards.
Cool. So yeah, dread presence. I'm just gonna pull it up because this is the card that I want to build my entire Archelos deck around. Playing dread presence in its exact text is, hang on, we're just pulling it up here. Whenever a swamp enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. You draw a card and lose 1 life, so real solid. Or it deals 2 damage to any target and you gain 2 life.
Seems good.
Yeah. Well, and especially with you being able to fetch so many things, dread presence is just gonna wipe the table.
I will
be-
definitely.
Painful. It's a very good card. Super
Reshape.
underplayed.
Yeah. Also, because like I said, I'm being a scumbag and I want to make my deck around that one. The whole reason I haven't made it yet, full disclaimer, I can't find Land Harmonicon anywhere.
Oh,
Yeah.
What's Land Harmonicon, Dan?
I don't even know its real name. Every time I go to stores, I ask for Land
a-
Harmonicon. I'm like, do you have Land Harmonicon? They're like, what is that?
Ancient Green Warden.
Yeah, there you go. I'm just like, it's the Panharmonicon for lands. They're like, oh, I've never heard anyone call it Land Harmonicon. I'm like, well, that's what they should call it.
Yep.
I don't think there's
exactly
another
what it
name
should have
for
been.
it.
Yeah, Land Harmonicon is a dope name. But yeah, I can't find one anywhere.
I was
There's
at the
literally-
LGS when Daniel asked for it, and they're like, "Excuse me." I was like, "Ancient Green Warden." They're like, "Oh."
Yeah, Land Harmonicon's dope. But yeah, I want to do that just so I can reshape the earth and do 40 damage to someone because I'm a bad person.
like it. I like it.
Yeah, and we'll get into the lands, but you have some similar lands to what I'd put in.
So we're going to get into the enchantments before we head into lands. These are some of the more linchpinny cards. I mean, the first one we have is Cryptolith Rite. It's a colorless and a green for an enchantment, and creatures you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Just another way to make sure Archelos is tapped.
Yep. Well, and it's also just something good to do with your creatures.
Yep.
I love Cryptolith Rite. Ryan, I gotta say, I'm loving this deck.
Thank you.
This next card is super nutty.
You never see it. I
Yeah.
very, very rarely see it.
It was a hard card to find. I
For-
finally
I
found one.
For once,
feel like
don't
the-
have it.
I
think
had
the price
one.
tag. I think the price tag helps that though, honestly, because it's a very degenerate card.
Yeah.
Um,
Earthcraft. Go ahead, Zach.
Earthcraft is 1 and a green for an enchantment. You tap an untapped creature you control, untap target basic land.
Yep.
So I'm not trying
Real
to do
good.
anything degenerate with this, but it's just another way to ensure Archelos is tapped.
Yeah.
For sure.
You generally do see it with degenerate things, but
hmm
sometimes it's that way. Sometimes it'd be like that.
I really like this next card. I'm going to read it because I like it. It's free
What?
from the real. It's 2 and a blue for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. 1 blue, tap enchanted creature. 1 blue, untap enchanted creature. It's just great.
Again, another card you see generally in degenerate, but
Mhm.
you're not trying to be degenerate in the normal sense of the word. You just wanna tap the turtle.
Yeah.
Or
I just
untap the turtle.
Yeah, just play
And I-
Turtle Beyblade.
I do think like when I started templating, like mapping this deck out, what I wanted to do with it, it was literally Archelos was the first card, and Freed from the Real was the second card that went in the deck.
I remember talking to Ryan about this deck, and I'm not a very stacksy person.
Yeah.
You guys know my 3 favorite things to do in Magic, and he was just like, "Oh, this is the deck that I have," and then I brewed it, and I came up with my version. I was like, "Oh, this is what I would do," and it was literally like a snow themed deck, and Ryan's just like, "There's not enough stacks for what I want to do."
I was like, get out of here, Zach. This is too fair.
So I
I was
haven't.
like,
Oh, sorry.
"Oh, go ahead."
No, I was just gonna say I haven't seen this next card, and it in itself is ridiculous. So it is Frozen Aether. It is 3 and a blue. Artifact, creatures, and lands your opponents control come into play tapped.
Good
Uh,
old-fashioned stacks.
You
And
mean to
it-
tell me the guy who plays Bant enchantments has never seen Frozen Aether?
Yeah,
Brian doesn't play Bant enchantments. Brian
He
plays
has-
Bant creatures.
yeah. I have
That's
banned
fair.
creatures.
It's in the colors, and he likes enchantments.
The beautiful
Brian
thing about this
does
is
love
it's
enchantments.
it's your opponent, so it does not affect you whatsoever.
Oh,
But you can still be generous and make it so they're untapped. You can be a gracious god in this game.
okay. Calm down there, Xerxes.
All you must do is kneel.
This next one is Carametra's Favor. It's a colorless and a green for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature, and when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. An enchant creature has tap to make 1 mana of any color. Just keep hedging on the theme of trying to make sure Archelos is tapped, and it gives you a little bit of ramp.
The next one, Fishstick Remora, is lovely as a card. Cumulative upkeep 1. Whenever target opponent successfully casts a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. They have to pay 4 to stop it. Will you pay the 4?
I love the magical fish.
Honestly, generally you're going to get pretty good value out of it, even if it's around 1 or 2 turns. Even people removing it, unless they're going to pay, if they have 1 mana removal, they're still going to pay 5 to stop you from getting a draw. So it's definitely a good early game turn 1 play. If you can get something like that out, people are hitting their soul rings. You're going to just see just a ton of value from these cards. I really like Mystic Remora.
I think I went to the FLGS ad. It's like, oh, you got a heavily played binder. I think they had three of them for $4. So I was like,
That's pretty good.
I'll take those.
Mystic Remora is it's a solid card. It's definitely in high demand for, again, people who play degenerate competitive games. So when people are spamming off their 0-cost artifacts in something like Urza, it's a real good draw engine.
Sure is.
Opposition is so good. You take it away.
It's one of my favorites. I remember playing this in Standard during 7th edition and Urza's block. It's 2 colorless, blue for an enchantment. You can tap an untapped creature you control to tap target artifact, creature, or land.
Yep.
This card does a ton of work. It keeps keeping Archelos tapped, but then it also deals with my opponent's problems. And then when you have things like Winter Orb, Static Orb, Storage Matrix, you can slowly lock a player out of the game.
Yeah, I really like that. The ability, I was just thinking about how fun it is to tap people's creatures down. I didn't even think that you can, to get your Archelos tapped again, you can get rid of that Howling Mine effect. You can get rid of the Storage Matrix. That's a real good card in this.
Mm-hmm. So I see that you have the baby mystical fish, the Ristic Steady. 2 in a blue.
Is that how you would describe that? The
No.
baby?
It's
Baby
just a lot
fish
cheaper. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. I would love it if it was pay 4, but it's significantly cheaper.
It's the card when you want to cosplay a parrot. It and Smothering Test. Do you pay the 1? Do you pay the 2? Do you pay the 1? Do you pay the 2?
Oh, excuse me, sir. Do you pay the 1?
Yeah, we're going to finance a second show just by making a Do You Pay the 1 jar for Brian.
What do you guys want to take this next one?
Root Maze is a really, really cool card. Artifacts and lands come into play tapped, and that's very funny. It's 1 mana for an enchantment. It's hilarious. You can just ruin whole people's day with that very early Brutal Stacks card.
1 mana?
Yeah, 1 mana artifacts and lands come into play tapped.
Everyone ridiculous!
Unanimously come into play tapped. You slow everyone right down. But again, life isn't a race. So
there's a funny story about this card. I don't live in the same province as Daniel and Brian, and I purchased this card on eBay, and it arrived, and I actually, unbeknownst to me, purchased it from Daniel and Brian's FLGS on eBay.
That's awesome.
What up?
Yeah. Ogre's Den.
So
check them out.
Normally we don't really go over the lands that we have in here, but this deck has so many that you can't not. There's a lot of really integral parts to the deck that have cool things. I'm gonna let Ryan start it off and just go over some of the important lands here.
Sure. So we have Academy Ruins. It just taps for a colorless, and you can pay a colorless and a blue to put target artifact card from your graveyard on top of your library. It just protects all those vital. Well, it doesn't protect, but it recurs all those vital artifacts.
That has to go.
Need and want.
And
it also has the shenanigans. You can just keep recurring Nevinyrral's Disc over and over and over and over again.
I won't play.
Keep your opponents in check. The next one is Blink Moth Well. It taps for a colorless, and you can pay 2 and tap it to tap target non-creature artifact. So it lets you shut off Howling Mine. It lets you shut off Static Orb. It lets you shut off Winter Orb. So you are not getting affected by it, but your opponents are.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
The next two are check lands. I love them because they are good if you have the condition, and in this deck, they're good if you don't. Blooming Marsh and Botanical Sanctum, both of them enter tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands. So early game, they are good, fast, color fixing mana. Late game, you're not going to be affected by them because you don't care about tapped things.
Yeah, I didn't think about how awesome these are going to be in this type of deck where, you know, our turtle is going to make everything either come into play tapped or untapped, so you get benefits from them immediately.
Yeah. I like I was saying, him just being an Amulet of Vigor just on a stick is awesome.
I've been reevaluating these type of lands anyway since we've been looking more and doing more stuff with tiny leaders. So like I kind of wrote a lot of these, you know, lands off because they don't have the, you know, actual land type, so I don't really care about them. But now that, you know, we're playing smaller decks and more aggressive style mana, these types of lands are super, super good.
The next one's Breeding Pool. We all know what that does. After that, there's Buried Ruin. Taps for a colorless. You can pay 2, tap, sack it to return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Just another way to recur all the cards you need and you want in play.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, you want to glaze through a couple of these real quick?
Yeah, so next up we have...
I am taking the next one, Brian.
Go for it.
Field of the Dead. Field of the Dead is the best card in the deck, hands down. It's the best card in any deck. Love Field of the Dead. Field of the Dead can't be beat.
I've tried to pick them up now whenever I see them because I'm just like, okay, like these are just so good.
Enters tapped, taps for a colorless mana. Enters tapped doesn't really matter. Whenever it or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie. This card goes so hard. I can't. It's probably one of my favorite cards in Magic. Everyone talks nonstop about how it should be banned. I think they're bad people. Field of the Dead is wonderful. Field of the Dead, I just like my favorite standard time was the Valakut time, and that was not really a good standard time. But this kind of brings me back to being able to do those Valakut scape shift shenanigans. I love fetching Field of the Dead. It's just such a good card. There's nothing I don't like about Field of the Dead. I try to include it in every deck.
Next one is Holdout Settlement. It's taps for a colorless, or you can tap an untap creature you control to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Self-explanatory with what we're trying to do in this deck.
Yeah, tap that turtle.
There's Survivor Encampment, which is the exact same thing. And then, Daniel, do you want to talk about this last card in this deck? This last
Vesuva?
land? Yeah.
You mean Field of the Dead 2?
Electric Boogaloo?
Yeah. Field of the Dead 2 is a great card. As it comes into play, you may choose a land in play. If you do, it comes into play tapped as a copy of the chosen land. And it's also very fun to do on other people's really, really good lands, like a Gaia's Cradle, something like that. You're able to hit a lot of really high value things with Vesuva. But it's also just a really, really good second Field of the Dead. And I cannot stress how bad 2 zombies is for everyone.
Plus, if you're scape shifting, then it's not just 2 zombies.
Oh no, I know. Trust me,
Yeah,
Brian. I know.
Or you're reshaping the earth and you're making 40 or 20 zombies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Field of the Dead just like can change the game around out of nowhere because it's just you're doing it on resolution. You're gonna need like an end the turn effect, or it's not even a torpor orb style effect because it's not a creature entering.
Yep.
Everyone's understanding now why I want to use Land Harmonicon.
Yep.
So many zombies.
Yeah,
all the zombies.
That might be an addition to this deck. I'm not 100% certain what I would cut for it, but I could see Ancient Green Warden getting slotted in this deck just to really take advantage of those 2 cards.
Well, you do have a lot of value stuff just in the deck in general, right? Like you're not really missing missing much stuff. You have a ton of permanent removal. You've got some decent counterspell. You have a ton of stacks and control, and like the one-sided stacks like Urza. The stuff that makes Urza so strong is the ability to use those pieces that other people generally can't take advantage of, right? This is a deck style that you're not seeing very often because any deck can slot in a Winter Orb, right? They're just not usually benefiting from it in the normal way. Like I like to run it in elf themed decks because I have my mana generation elsewhere. I don't mind not untapping my lands. I can slow everyone down, but it's very rare that you're seeing somebody get the actual value of the card without playing Urza. Like it's pretty much only Urza who takes advantage of it that way, right? So now another option for it is wonderful. And yeah, Archelos is just such a cool card. His art is great. He's basically Master Oogway. Like, what more do you want?
That was actually so when I opened up my first box of Commander Legends, I opened a foil, just a regular foil version, and I was pretty excited. And then I picked up an etched foil, and then in later boxes of Commander Legends that I opened up 2 more etched foils. So I have 3 etched foils and a regular foil of this guy. I was like, it's fate. I can't not play with this card.
Now make a more not so toxic deck.
Secure, my friend.
Yeah.
So Zach's new little segment that he introduced a couple weeks ago was the pros and cons of the deck.
Yeah.
I really think a heavy con of this deck is you are going to generate a lot of hate. Like
I was going to say having no friends.
This is the friend destroyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you actually make me not look so bad.
But I also think in the same thing, I think this deck is well set up to protect itself from the hate.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would like to maybe try to squeeze in a little bit more removal. I'm just not sure what that looks like mass removal.
I think there's one enchantment that I'm surprised that you're not running, and it would be the blue ghostly prison.
Oh, yeah,
propaganda, because
not
that just if they can only untap 1 land per turn in some cases, they can't pay to even attack you.
Yeah.
I will say, so not a pro or con, but when I started building this deck and I got it to its kind of final form before I started making cuts, the deck was at like 125 cards. So getting it down to 100 cards was pretty tough. I really wanted to hedge in on the stacks theme, which that's why there's so few creatures in the deck, which Dan and I were talking about the Scape Shift Reshape the Earth package, and it ended up going in because I was like, I really don't have a lot of threat, like big win cons in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm kind of concerned that, if my opponents can get enough removal and lock me out, like, I mean, most of my creatures are little other than like ISC, Araxmathes, and Consecrated Sphinx and Frost Titan. The rest of it's all just small stuff.
Yeah.
So being able to flood the board with a ton of 2/2s was a good way to try to, because I can lock you out of the game, so all your stuff is tapped. It's a good way to even just to eke through some damage.
I would still love to see a Black Blade reforged in this deck.
The turtle with the sword.
Mega slap someone with the turtle.
Because
Yeah,
that was something I thought that was something that I suggested to Ryan when he first started spitballing this deck. I was just like, with everything coming into play tapped, more times than not, you're gonna be able to commander damage people out of the game because you can untap your commander.
Blackblade Reforged slapping someone with a Rogue's Passage in that turtle just out of the blue would be so funny. Just
that's what
yeah, so I'm gonna do 33 damage with it. What?
Literally out of left field.
Tortoise in the hair, my friend. I don't know what to tell you.
I would
just snapped.
I'd be super upset getting stacked out of the game, but then if I died because I got one-shotted by
a turtle,
by the mega
with a
turtle?
sword, I don't think I'd feel as bad about like getting stacked out. I've been like,
That would be a hilarious loss.
at least I got bonked.
I accept it.
Do you guys see any glaring cons or any big pros to the deck that you guys want to mention?
No, pros, you're definitely very protected and stuff.
The
Like,
salt.
it's well constructed, and you're looking pretty solid in the amount of draw you have. I'd probably put in a little bit more draw, but even just Howling Mine and being able to fully abuse it, I would put in Rites of Flourishing because I just like to draw cards and include Rites of Flourishing. But again, I like to play landfall and everything, so that probably is why my decision is that way. No, I think that you've got just a ton of removal, a ton of you got the counter spells. We'll tell you that.
Yep.
Oof, those hurt.
I was actually pretty surprised when I had built the deck. I wasn't paying attention to it, but the deck's average CMC is only 2.88.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Which
pretty
is-
low.
Crazy low for a control deck.
I just looked at the price of this deck.
Yeah.
It is not cheap.
Yeah, there's a few pricey pieces in here, a few pricey boys.
Well, the whole counter magic package.
Yeah. Well, even Earthcraft, it's $100 American.
Yep, that's very
110
true.
American.
It was like 700 moose bucks.
Yeah, you cut that down, it's only $1,200 deck.
Actually, you cut Icy Manipulator. You cut Icy Manipulator out of the deck, and it's a $700 deck. Or, sorry, not
was-
Icy Manipulator. Mox
Yeah.
Diamond.
I thought that was funny. I was like, Icy Manipulator, he gets it.
Yeah, I've got an alpha one. No,
Yeah.
I mean, really, you could cut Mox Diamond and just add another land to the deck. And
Well, another land or even just any kind of
rock.
signet, talisman, whatever.
Yep, I only added it because I've got a really sweet
Ryan.
proxy version of it.
I'm gonna have to be honest with you. You're running too many lands.
Oh no, that's actually too few. The only reason it's 34
No.
is because my
Con,
average CMC is 2.88.
con. There are too many lands.
I hate you
I-
guys.
I'd probably run something similar in this one. Like this isn't your grandpa's 38 land, Zach. Zach.
Let's go. Let's go look at my Archidec list, Dan, and see what my average CMC and land base has been as of like the last 6 decks,
You
sir.
brought it down, and they're playing well.
And see, I typically am always 36 to 37 land.
See, I just think that you could go down. Just you could probably lose 1 or 2 more because you are below 3 CMC. You need 3 lands to
Nope.
be able to cast your stuff.
Dan, in a salty control stack you do not want to miss a land drop.
Yeah, you definitely need this because again, you're going to be the target of the table. to
You got
say
the
least.
draw.
Yep. What if you don't
Oh,
draw
yeah.
the draw?
I want
Yeah.
to jump off subject real quick. The most recent deck I built was Glen, and I have 33 lands in that deck.
Yeah.
There you go.
Average CMC is 2.51, so I could probably drop another land, but 32
Bring it down to
seems scary.
29.
No.
Savage.
Not quite yet. That's we're gonna wrap this one here, guys. Like I said, I think this is gonna be a super fun deck. Check out the link in the description, and yeah, Brian, tell them where they can find our content.
Well, everybody, you can find us on our website, intoThe99.com. We have wonderful artists that are, writers that are creating articles for your reading enjoyment, as well as you can find our podcast on all major podcast services, Spotify, Apple, Google, as well.
If you find us on Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating. It really helps out with us actually being found. And yeah, let us know how you think of the show. Hopefully 5 stars.
Woo! As
As
well,
always,
check us
share
out on
with your
Patreon. We have some wonderful tiers there with a little bit of goodies. As well, the MTG CCAs are currently ongoing. If you enjoy our content, check out the website, mtgcca.com, and nominate us.
Yeah, definitely a lot of cool content creators to check out there as well. Thank you guys so much for listening.
See ya.